Alright guys, welcome to the next best of 5 here in the round of 8 at the Esports Venture Cup, and we are looking at game number 1 in the best of 5 between the Terran player to the bottom left of Frost, our first map here. This is Dayshi, and starting to the top left we have his opponent. This is Dimaga, and I think we are in for a treat. Dayshi, a player who can really make some waves in Europe, but on the other hand we have Dimaga, who seems to be a bit on the roll lately. Really good games that we saw in the WCS European qualifier. Unfortunately, he was not able to qualify, lost to a Protoss in the end, but then also in this tournament we saw incredible play out of Dimaga already in a few of the maps. So I'm really excited for this series. Terran versus Protoss is, Terran versus Zerg is one of my favorite matchups to watch, and I think that in this particular game we're going to have a very exciting best of 3 between the two of them. So right now we have Dimaga starting probably things off with a hatch first on this map. Not necessarily going into a double hatch before pool, because Frost is sometimes a little bit misleading if you look at the distances between the bases. You can be aggressive here against your opponent. But Dimaga gets a very good scout off with the first overlord that he sends to the bottom left of the map now, because that is exactly where Dayshi spawns. And Dayshi starts things off with the command center on the high ground. I like this build a lot. Command center first on the high ground is just something where you are safe against early pools as well, and there is nothing I feel worse. I feel the worst build for a Terran player, for a Zerg player in a Zerg versus Terran is going for a 10 pool. Every single time I see it, I facepalm, because you kind of hope that your opponent builds a command center low ground or does not wall with his barracks, and that kind of never happens. So you gamble so much, it's absolutely insane. And even if you start with an early pool, or an earlier pool than that, if a command center is being built on the high ground, the Terran player is super safe. This is a really tight wall, you cannot really contest this, and it's a great build. So you lose a little bit of time where the command center floats down to the mineral patches, but I feel this is absolutely worth it. Right now we have Dimaga with the hatch first, as we already mentioned, and in the main base he's also taking the spawning pool now. He could go into that 4 queen build where he then starts his own gas a little bit later, but gets the safety of the 4 queens against the Hellions and the Reapers. And it looks very much like this is what we're going to see from him. He also confirmed with the Overlord already that we have a command center first there. And after he saw that, he could have decided to just go into a faster third base as well, because this is one of the things that you can definitely do when your opponent is prioritizing his command center this much. So maybe that's what he's going to do. Dimaga in general just now in the last few days playing very strong against Terran. He was faced with a Terran player already in the round of 16, where he faced the German champion Hero Marine, and he was able to clench out a victory in this best of 3 series with a 2-1. Right now we have him in the first game against his opponent starting those extra queens that we've been talking about. That's really important when you want to wall against your opponent. For example, you set up a double evolution chamber and then you want to close the gap with 1 or 2 queens. Helps you a lot. The extra energy on the queens, good for transfusers, good for injects of course, also pretty decent for the creep spread that you want to have. And here's already Geyser number 1 being taken. Guess the second one is probably going to follow suit, but at 5 minutes into the game, with this one alone, he can already get all the gas that he needs for his speed upgrade. And we saw him occasionally also skip the speed upgrade just a little bit and get the tech out faster. As mentioned before, he has the second gas taken too, so kind of what we expected there. It's a build that we've seen several times, not only from Dimaga, but from Zergs in general in this matchup in particular. And now looking at the looking at the bottom left, we have for the Terran player 2 additional barracks started. He already has the factory here and it's going up straight into triple barracks, not adding the starport right away. And actually we have the engineering bay here too, so that could be a lot of damage output that he goes for here. Might just be used as a bit of a safety net, but we've seen aggressive moves by Dayshi in the past, and he goes for double reactor here and already has the tech lab here at the front. So Stim is probably going to be started very soon, and then we will see a lot of Marines there, and Marine and Hellion, that's gonna get a bit iffy, because that's a lot of damage output. And if Dimaga doesn't get a Baneling Nest, he might be blindsided by this and be taken out. We've seen pushes like this in Wings of Liberty quite a lot, where Terran players were deciding to go into Marine and Hellion and then try to use that with Stim. And it always looks super silly when the Zerg player sees it coming and goes just simply for a Baneling Nest. But as soon as the Zerg player does not get that Baneling Nest, because he's a little bit too greedy, that can completely steamroll. And suddenly you are faced with an army that you just can't stop. That's just way too strong for you. The 1-1 upgrades is also gonna help here quite a lot if he gets those upgrades out in time. But Dayshi, of course, doesn't really have to commit to this. It's a possibility, it's an opportunity that he has, but he doesn't really have to make that work or to even attempt that. He has a few Marines already there in the battle, but if he just waits for the first 2 medivacs, he can also attempt to just use a drop play against his opponent. And with the Hellions, he's already active on the map, trying to take down the creep tumors here, killing the first one. The one thing that he doesn't know is that there's a second one as well, who's basically in the same spot, so the queen is not, the creep is not going to recede here. The Baneling Nest, also something that Dimaga doesn't skip. Would be a little bit interesting if he would, especially in the matchup against Terran, where you usually go for Ling Muta Baneling, especially a player like Dimaga, who even gets the Baneling Nest against Protoss occasionally. In Wings of Liberty, he did that kind of every time. Right now, it's more of a thing that, yeah. That depends a little bit on how he wants to approach the matchup or what he expects from his opponent, but we will still see it. Right now we have the first Stallion going down, the second one also on the way to hell. And, well, in the main base for Dayshi, we do not see the third CC just yet, the third orbital. He's really just getting a big army out there. He's currently looking at 34 army supply against 16, and his worker supply not all that high, but of course with the extra mule he is making up for that. Now building the command center directly on the low ground, and the problem with that is that there are still Lings left that just simply take down the SCV and might actually be able to force a cancel on the command center. I'm not quite sure if the Terran player is going to be back in time to save that. Looks like he will though. Marines are there taking that out. And talking about Marines, this is the push that I talked about earlier. He's moving in, sniping those Banelings, and Dimaga, you have to be careful because the Banelings are basically your safety net. This is your insurance that you're going to survive this. And nice splits here by Dayshi, but his Marines are being taken out one by one. He's moving away with the last few Zerglings that he has there. Overlords are being attacked. One Overlord goes down. That doesn't supply Dimaga just yet, but it definitely puts him in a little bit of an awkward situation, especially since now the Medivacs are heading into the main base. But the drop right into the Lings is probably not the best idea that Dayshi had so far today. Resources lost, 1,700 against 1,400. Harvester count is still 76 against 55. Another base being taken to the top right of the map. So Dimaga already on 3 bases, claiming a 4th. And in the meantime, we have Dayshi attempting to get his own 3rd into the game. Starting to the left side of the map, we have an Overlord being attacked by the Viking, but also the Mutalists being started here. So far, Dimaga doing a really incredible job at keeping Dayshi at a distance. If you look at the Harvesters killed here, that's basically 0 for Dayshi. Dimaga in supply block is going to lose another Overlord here potentially, or an Overseer. So he really needs to get a couple of additional Overlords into the game. Infestation bit also started around the 11-minute mark, 11:30, meaning that we will have the Hive Tech right after that. But Dimaga, in general, solid job here. So far we do not see the combat shield, and one of the reasons why we have this weird position here for Dayshi is because he really delayed his 3rd base and the additional tech and just started to go into aggressive posture on the map with the first few medivacs that came out of there and all of the Marines that he got earlier. He had the stim upgrade already, but he never did really as much damage as he wanted to. Now it's starting a little bit of a phase in the game where the Terran player is going to try to control the map, or at least try to wiggle the control away from Dimaga. But the Terran player is going to deal, or has to deal, with the Mutalisks here. And there is the first Widow Mine that goes down. We still have those, you know, Mutalisks do a little bit of damage. They can't really move into natural since there's already the missile turret, and they are of course also a little bit afraid that they might be confronted with another Widow Mine. The same time we have the Marines in a really nice spot here, but they are not going to take down that hatch. That's just not going to happen. The Zerglings are there way too fast. Mutalisks still trying to do a little bit of damage, and we have this entire resources lost tab shifting a little bit in favor of Dayshi, who was able to take down a few Mutalisks, and that really is worth a lot since they are especially expensive in gas. The Viking trying to make something happen here against the air units, but Vikings are not the greatest weapon of choice if you are going up against Mutalisks. They are usually pretty useless in this matchup. Also not in the matchup against Zerg, but against Mutalisks themselves. It depends a little bit. If you have, for example, just a few Thors and also missile turrets that you can depend upon, Vikings are great because they zone out the Mutalisks, but in a head-on attack, they don't really work all the way. Now we have a lot of Marines actually crossing the map, and this is basically this parade push that we see Bomber do a lot, and he did that, of course, especially in the past, trying to aim for that 4th. There are units everywhere, and they are rolling in from all the angles, trying to go for a good flank, and this is a lot of damage done by Dimaga already. He's trying to eliminate as many Marines as possible before those Mutalisks move in, and there are links everywhere. Dayshi is getting crushed here. He's going to lose a lot of the medivacs too, and that's something that he can't afford to lose because they are very expensive in gas, and that is basically the backbone of the Terran army. If you lose your medivacs or they are low in energy, you cannot really use stim anymore, and that's a big problem. We have still a couple of units at the top left. He doesn't commit with all of his Mutalisks to chase down those medivacs. If he did, he would have been able to kill most likely all of them, but he still killed enough of them. Resources lost and now is nearly in favor of Dimaga. Another medivac goes down, and it means that we only have 4 in the game. 93 drones, that's what we currently see for Dimaga, and that leaves him with an incredible income, especially when he saturates the mineral patches over here once again. But it already shows that even against the mules, he's absolutely on par with his opponent. He's on 3 bases, the Terran player, against a 5 for Dimaga, and another base being taken at the right side of the map. +3/+3 started before the Terran player completes his own +2 armor upgrade, and that already sets the signs for the rest of the game. Dimaga will have a very good position here. He's going into Adrenal Glands too, and we have him with the Ultralisk Cannon against the Bio Army. A pretty good idea here, but you need to be very careful where you attack, because on Frost there are a lot of choke points, a lot of funnels, a lot of bottleneck positions where you cannot attack into with Ultralisks unless you want to lose the entire army. The Mutalisks here still dancing around the edges of Dayshi's territory, trying to maybe snipe a missile turret here, a couple of SCVs there, or just intercept another medivac that is being sent over. Something that he's trying to do. Starting to the right side of the map, we still have that base not completed, but the Marines could put an end to this before it's even in the game. A bit of a lag spike there, maybe one of the observers having trouble in the game. We saw also players struggling a little bit, especially in the past. Snoot had a problem, I think, with his ISP just recently in the connection to Battle.net. Not today, though. And here we have the Mutalisks still trying to take down these units that pop out of the barracks. More Marines going up at the top, Bailing taking care of them. That base that we see over there is immediately being attacked. The Mutalisks starting to do damage. Another stim baited out by Dimaga, and those lag spikes are really annoying. Dimaga is having the same problem. He feels those lag spikes, and they are very distracting for the players here too. We have Dayshi committing now with a 200 supply army, going up now against his opponent's bases, trying to eliminate this one. Dimaga, where are his Mutalisks? They are going to the top right. They're trying to make this somehow happen, get those Bailings into the Marine counts, and that's what's going on here. But there are a lot of Marines left for Dayshi. In total we have 69 and only 17 Mutalisks. Where are those Fungals? They are not hitting home. The failed Fungals there currently for Dimaga. He has way too many drones right now. He's falling behind in overall supply a little bit, and especially in the army supply. Only 105 against 131. The Fungals that he has are not good enough to keep those Terran units at bay at a distance. That base goes down. He still has the hatch at the right side of the map, but we also have here another base for Dayshi himself, and Dimaga needs to be super careful. Those Ultralisks that he builds, they are just not ready to defend the space at the top right at this moment. And looking at the upgrades that he researched, we do not see Kaitinas playing just yet. It's an upgrade that you need to get. You need to get that. That's extra armor yet they have right there. But he doesn't get it. He's trying to attack the space over here, and he will definitely take that out. At the right side, the Marines spotted already that this is an additional base for Dimaga. Ultralisks really doing some damage, and it looks like Dayshi is just not ready for this. He doesn't have the number in Marauders that he would like to have against this composition, and even without the extra armor, the Ultralisks are already doing quite a bit. It's a bit problematic for Dimaga that he didn't realize that he doesn't have this upgrade. There is no Kaitinas upgrade. He needs that. That's one of the most important upgrades for the Ultralisks. Look how much damage the Marines are able to dish out against the Ultralisks because that upgrade is missing. That shouldn't happen. And Dimaga so far didn't ask himself, why do my Ultralisks not tank any damage? And that is an issue. He needs to find out that this is the case, that this upgrade is lacking, but now he's rushing in with Banelings, with Zerglings, and with the Ultralisks, and Dayshi is starting to lose a little bit of ground there. He's not splitting really all that well as he did in the games before, or at least in the battles before, and is down to 116 supply, whereas Dimaga is just maxing out once again, or attempting to, going up to 180. forcing his opponents back once again. Has still a couple of units over at the income at the 4th base, or basically, so it's actually 4th base of his opponent. Forcing a lift here once again. Resources lost are in favor of Dayshi still, but only by the smallest of margins. And the Terran player is just running away right now. Those Mutalisks could start to chase those Medivacs, and they actually should. They should start to take them out. He's going to town on those Marines on the other hand, and once that the anti-area committee of Dayshi is gone, the Mutalisks are gonna shine. But Dayshi, he leaves the game already. He's down to 108 supply, and Dimaga, he just has way too much here and claims victory in game number 1 against his opponent, taking the lead in the best of 5 series.